Let me start with a small, ordinary moment. Not a hospital. Not an emergency. Just a living room on a regular afternoon. A woman drops the television remote. It slides under the coffee table, just out of reach. And she looks at it on the floor, this little plastic thing she has picked up 1,000 times, and for half a second, before she even decides to move, a thought crosses her mind that was never there before. Is this going to be a whole production? That is the moment I want to talk about today. Not the fall. Not the broken hip. Not the nursing home. The half second before any of that. The small hesitation before bending down, the little calculation before standing up, the quiet voice that starts asking, can I still do this easily, or is this going to cost me something now? That voice is what nobody puts a name to. We talk about wrinkles. We talk about gray hair, and blood pressure, and memory. But there is a fear that runs underneath all of it, quieter and far more honest, and it sounds like this. I am afraid of the day my own body stops doing what I ask it to do. I want you to know something right at the start. That fear is not silly. It is not vanity. And it is not something to be ashamed of. It is one of the wisest things your body has ever told you, because it is pointing at something real, something measurable, something that is happening right now to almost every person over 50 who is not doing one specific thing about it. But here is the part they do not tell you, and it is the reason I am making this video. The thing you are afraid of is largely optional. Not entirely. We are not going to pretend nobody ages. But far, far more optional than you have ever been led to believe. My name is Nora. I spent more than 30 years as a nurse. And in those 30 years, I stood at the bedside of a great many people in the last chapter of their lives, and I watched something that changed how I think about aging forever. I watched two kinds of 80-year-olds. One kind came into the hospital for something. A bout of pneumonia, a small surgery, a bad flu. And they got better, and they went home, and they picked their lives right back up. And the other kind came in for something just as small, and they never really came home. Not because the pneumonia was worse. Because something had been quietly draining out of them for 20 years, and the illness was just the thing that finally revealed how little was left. The difference between those two people was not luck. It was not good genes, though genes play their part. The single biggest difference I could see, standing there in my scrubs at 2 in the morning, was muscle. Strength. The physical ability to get up, to hold on, to carry themselves. The ones who kept it, kept their lives. The ones who lost it, lost far more than they ever knew they were losing, because it went so slowly that nobody, not them, not their families, sometimes not even their doctors, ever pointed at it and said, this is the thing. So that is what we are going to do today. We are going to point at it. We are going to give it a name, understand why it happens, and, this is the important part, we are going to talk about how much of it you can get back, at 50, at 60, at 70, and yes, even older. Because the science on this is not gentle and vague. It is loud and it is hopeful, and I do not think enough people over 50 have heard it. Now, before we go one step further, let me say the thing I always say, because I mean it every time. I am a nurse, not your doctor. Nothing in this video is a diagnosis or a prescription for you personally. If you have a heart condition, a bad joint, a recent surgery, balance problems, anything at all, you take these ideas to your own doctor first and you let them tell you what fits your body. This is education, not instruction. Your doctor knows you. I do not. Please, promise me that. But with that said, stay with me. Because I want to take that quiet fear you have been carrying, the one under the coffee table, and I want to turn it into the most useful information you have gotten in years. This is not bad news. It is information. And information, in your hands, becomes power. There is a word for what we are talking about. Your doctor may have said it once, quickly, and moved on. The word is sarcopenia. It comes from Greek, and it simply means poverty of the flesh. The loss of muscle. I do not love clinical words, but I like this one, because poverty of the flesh is honest. It tells you what is at stake. Not a number on a scale. Not the shape of your arms in a photograph. Wealth or poverty, in the most physical sense there is. Here is what actually happens, and I am going to keep it plain. Starting somewhere in your 30s, a little earlier for some, you begin to lose muscle. Slowly. A tiny amount every year. In your 40s it is still so small you would never notice. But it does not stay small. Somewhere after 50 it speeds up, and by the time you are past 60 you can be losing muscle at a rate of 1 to 2% a year, and losing strength, which is not the same thing, and it matters, even faster than that. Let me put a real number on it, because numbers wake us up. Between the ages of 50 and 70, a person who does nothing about this can lose around 30% of their strength. 30%. Imagine 1 out of every 3 helpers who used to lift you out of a chair simply walking off the job and never coming back. That is what is happening, quietly, year after year, while you are busy living your life. And here is why it is so sneaky. It does not hurt. There is no ache that says you are losing muscle today. It does not show up on the bathroom scale. In fact, and this is the cruel part, muscle often gets quietly replaced by fat, so the number on the scale can stay exactly the same while the thing inside you changes completely. You can weigh what you weighed at 45 and be a totally different, weaker structure underneath. The frame is being hollowed out and the wallpaper looks the same. So you do not feel it as loss. You feel it as small surrenders. The jar you ask your grandson to open now. The stairs you take a little slower. The suitcase you check instead of carry. The garden bed you let go to seed because kneeling and getting back up is just a lot now. Each one feels like a reasonable, sensible little choice. And it is. But stacked up over 10 years, those reasonable little choices are how a life quietly shrinks. Now, why does it happen? Because I do not want you thinking this is just some doom that arrives with the birthday. There are real reasons, and once you see them, you will see the way out. The first reason is the simplest, and it is the one nobody wants to hear because it puts the ball back in our court. We stop asking anything of our muscles. Muscle is the most honest tissue in the body. It is pure economics. It costs the body a great deal of energy to maintain, so the body runs a very simple business rule. If you are not using it, it is a waste, and I will let it go. Use it, and the body keeps it. Stop using it, and the body, being efficient, not cruel, quietly closes that department down. When we are young, ordinary life asks a lot of our muscles. We carry babies, we haul groceries upstairs, we work on our feet, we get down on the floor to play. But as the years pass, life gets, in a word, smoother. We get the house on one level. We park closer. The kids move out. We sit more, for work, for rest, for the television, for the long good drives. And every one of those comforts, which we earned, which we deserve, sends the same message to the body. You can let this go now. Nobody needs it. The second reason is that as we age, the body actually gets a little harder of hearing. When you are 30, a small amount of exercise sends a loud, clear signal that says build muscle here. When you are 70, that same signal comes through fainter. Scientists call this anabolic resistance, and I only tell you the term so you will not feel crazy when your old routine does not work like it used to. It is not you. The volume knob got turned down. Which means, and this is important, the answer is not to do less because you are older. It is, carefully and sensibly, to ask a little more clearly. To turn the signal back up. And the third reason is protein. The raw material muscle is actually built from. It is one of the great quiet tragedies of aging that right at the age when our bodies need more protein to hold on to muscle, most people over 60 start eating less of it. The appetite fades. Cooking for one feels pointless. Meat gets harder to chew or harder to afford. So we drift toward toast and tea, a little cereal, something soft and easy. And the body, trying to build with no bricks, does the only thing it can. It borrows from itself. It takes the protein out of your own muscle to keep the rest of you running. Your body will, quite literally, eat its own strength to survive if you do not feed it enough. Now, I have just handed you 3 reasons your muscle disappears. I want you to notice something about all 3. Every single one of them is something you can do something about. You cannot unturn 50. You cannot change your genes. But not using your muscles? That is a habit, and habits can change. A signal that comes through faint? You can send a clearer one. Not enough protein on the plate? That is a grocery list. Every root cause of this thing you are afraid of is not a wall. It is a door. And here is the part one most want you to hear, the part that made me want to sit down and make this video for you. Sarcopenia is one of the most reversible conditions of aging we know of. Not managed. Not slowed. Reversed. I want to tell you about a study, because I think you should hear the actual proof and not just take a nice lady's word for it. Some years ago, researchers took a group of people living in a nursing home. Not 50-year-olds. Not 60-year-olds. The average age was around 90. 90 years old, many of them frail, some using walkers, some the kind of people the world had quietly written off as too far gone. They put these 90-year-olds on a simple strength program. Not marathons. Not anything dramatic. Just resistance, asking the muscles to push against a real load, a few times a week, for a couple of months. In 8 weeks, these 90-something men and women increased their muscle strength by well over 100%. More than doubled it. Some of them put away their walkers. People who had needed help standing up were standing up on their own. In 8 weeks. At 90. I want you to sit with that, because if a frail 90-year-old body can more than double its strength in 2 months, then whatever you are telling yourself about being too old or too far gone at 55 or 65 or 70, I say this with love, is simply not true. The body does not lose the ability to build muscle. It only loses the request. The machinery is still in there, in every one of us, waiting, a little dusty, for someone to switch it back on. The muscle does not know how many birthdays you have had. It only knows whether you asked anything of it this week. So the question stops being, how much have I lost? That is the past, and we are not going to live there. The question becomes, starting this week, what am I going to ask of it? And before we get to the asking, I want to show you exactly where you stand right now, with 2 simple tests you can do today, in your own home, with nothing but a chair and the floor. Because you cannot fix what you refuse to measure. Let me show you. I am going to give you 2 tests. You can do both of them in the next 5 minutes, right where you are sitting, and together they will tell you more about how you are aging than most of the numbers on your last physical. But first, safety, because I am a nurse before I am anything else. Do not do these alone if your balance is poor. Have something sturdy nearby, a counter, a solid chair, a wall. If you have had a hip or knee replacement, if you get dizzy, if your doctor has told you to be careful, then just watch today and ask your doctor before you try. There is no prize for getting hurt proving a point. Please. We clear? Good. Let me start with the gentler one. The chair test. Here is all it is. Sit down in a firm chair, a kitchen chair, not a soft couch. Fold your arms across your chest so you cannot use your hands. And then, without pushing off with your hands, without rocking to build momentum if you can help it, simply stand all the way up and sit all the way back down. And then again. And again. There is a proper version doctors use where they count how many times you can do it in 30 seconds, and if you want to be precise, set a timer and count. For a person in their 60s, somewhere around 12 to 14 is a healthy, reassuring number. Fewer than that, say, under about 10 or 11, and it is worth paying attention, worth a conversation with your doctor. But honestly, you do not need the stopwatch to learn what you need to learn. Just try to stand up, arms folded, 3 or 4 times in a row, slowly and under control. And listen to what your body tells you. Because here is what I want you to notice. It is not really about the number. It is about how it feels. Did you have to lean way forward and throw your weight to make it happen? Did you catch yourself starting to reach for your hands, for the armrest, for anything? Did the fourth one feel a lot harder than the first? Did you make a sound, that little grunt we all start making and pretending we do not? None of that is failure. Every bit of it is information. It is your body, being honest with you, maybe for the first time in years, about the state of the muscles that stand you up hundreds of times a day without you ever thinking about them. The chair is the muscle test we do the most and notice the least. You stand up from something dozens of times a day. If that motion is getting hard, that is not a small thing. That is the ground floor of your independence, and it is telling you how solid the foundation is. Now the second test. And I will be honest with you, this one is more revealing, and for some of us, more humbling. It is the floor test. There is a version of this that got famous. Researchers in Brazil built a whole scoring system around sitting down on the floor and getting back up using as little help as possible. They followed thousands of people for years, and they found something that stops you cold. How well a middle-aged and older person could get down to the floor and back up again predicted how long they would live. Not a lab machine. Not a blood test. The floor. The people who could get up and down easily, using no hands, lived longer than the people who needed to push off with a hand, a knee, the furniture. It was one of the strongest simple predictors of longevity they had ever measured. Now I am not going to have you score yourself with points today, and please, this is the one where I most need you to be careful. Only do this if you are steady, only with something solid to grab, and skip it entirely if there is any doubt. For many of you, just watching and being honest with yourself about whether you could is enough information for today. But here is the test. From standing, lower yourself down to sit on the floor. And then get back up. And notice, how much did you have to use? A hand? Both hands? A knee down first? Did you have to crawl to the couch and climb up it? Could you flow down and back up like water, or was it a whole negotiation with gravity, done in stages, with a plan? Again, the how is the whole message. A strong, mobile 50 or 60-year-old can get down and up using a hand or two, no drama. If getting to the floor fills you with dread, or getting up feels genuinely uncertain, or you realize you honestly are not sure you could get up if you fell, that is not shameful. That is the single most useful thing you could learn about your body today. Because think about what that really means, out in real life. It means if you drop something, you can get it. It means if you want to get down and play with a grandchild on the rug, you can, and more importantly, you can get back up, so you are not afraid to get down in the first place. And it means the thing everyone over 60 is quietly terrified of, falling and being stuck on the floor, alone, unable to rise, has an answer, and the answer is the strength to get up. Most falls do not kill people. I need you to hear that, because the fear is out of proportion to the fall itself. What harms people is often not being able to get up afterward. The hours on the cold floor. The help that comes too late. The strength to rise off the ground is, very literally, one of the things standing between a stumble and a catastrophe. So now you have two numbers, even if they are just feelings, not numbers. You know how your chair feels. You know how your floor feels. And whatever you found, I want you to do one thing before we go on. I want you to refuse to be discouraged by it. If you did great, wonderful. Now you know what you are protecting, and I am going to help you keep it. If it was humbling, if you needed both hands, if you are not sure about the floor at all, then you have just found the most important work of your next year, and I am telling you, with everything I learned in 30 years of nursing, that you can move that line. The 90-year-olds moved it. You can move it. Because here is what happens when we do not measure, when we just let the small surrenders pile up in the dark. Let me tell you about a woman named Eleanor, and how her whole world got smaller one reasonable decision at a time. Eleanor was 71 when I first knew her, and I want you to picture her the way she was, not the way this story ends, because the ending is the whole point. She was sharp. She was funny, that dry kind of funny where you have to be paying attention or you miss it. She had raised 3 children and buried a husband and run the office of a small business for 30 years, the kind of woman who was the reason the whole thing didn't fall apart. She lived in a 2-story house she loved, with a garden out back that had been her pride for 40 years. Roses. Tomatoes every summer. A little bench where she had her morning coffee. And nothing dramatic ever happened to Eleanor. That is what I need you to understand. There was no stroke, no terrible diagnosis, no single day the family could point to and say, that's when it started. That is exactly why it is worth telling. Because what happened to Eleanor is not a tragedy of bad luck. It is a tragedy of small, sensible steps, each one so reasonable that no one, not her kids, not me at first, thought to sound an alarm. It started with the garden. Kneeling got hard. Getting back up from kneeling got harder. And one spring, she decided, reasonably, sensibly, to let the far beds go. Just the far ones. Too much bending. She kept the near ones. And everyone said, good idea, Mom, don't overdo it. And it was a good idea, if you only looked at that one spring. Then the stairs. Her bedroom was up, and one day her knees and her wind made the stairs a twice-a-day event she started to dread. So, reasonably, sensibly, she moved her bed down to the front room. Just made a little bedroom downstairs. Practical. Smart. And now she never went upstairs at all, which meant the whole top floor of her own house, half of her home, half of her life, quietly closed. The guest room where the grandkids used to sleep over. Gone from her days. Nobody decided that. It just closed. Then driving at night, because getting in and out of the car in the dark, in the cold, with legs that did not quite trust themselves anymore, got to be too much. So no more evening things. No more the choir she loved, which met at 7. No more dinner at her daughter's. Reasonable. Sensible. Her world was now daylight only. Do you see it? Do you see how gentle it is? Every single step was the right call in the moment. Nobody was neglecting her. She was not being lazy. Each surrender was a reasonable response to a body that could do a little less than it could the month before. But strung together, over 5 or 6 years, those reasonable little steps walked her right into a life the size of one room. By the time she was 76, Eleanor, sharp, funny, capable Eleanor, lived almost entirely in her front room. Chair, television, the little table with her pills and her water. The garden was weeds. The upstairs was a museum. And here is the thing that breaks my heart and is the reason I tell this story every chance I get. Her mind had not shrunk at all. She was every bit as sharp and funny as the day I met her. She was fully, painfully aware of exactly how small her world had become. She was a whole, vivid person, trapped in a body that had quietly quit on her one job at a time, because at every fork in the road, the muscle that would have kept the door open had already left, and no one had ever told her she could have called it back. That is the part one cannot forgive, not in her, in all of us. Nobody ever told her. Not one person, in all those years of reasonable little surrenders, ever sat her down and said, "Eleanor, the stairs are not the enemy. The stairs are the training. The kneeling is not the problem to avoid. The strength to kneel and rise is the thing to protect, and you can protect it, starting today, at 70, at 72. Every time you avoided the hard thing to spare yourself, you were letting go of the very thing that would have kept you free. Because that is the cruel joke hidden inside take it easy. We say it with love. We say it to the people we care about most. Sit down, let me get that, don't strain yourself, take it easy. And for a broken bone, for a sick week, that is exactly right. But said to a healthy aging body, over and over, year after year, take it easy is one of the most dangerous things you can hear. Because the body takes you at your word. You take it easy, and it takes it easy, and it lets the muscle go, and the easy road slopes gently, quietly, all the way down to that one room. I think about Eleanor a lot. I think about who she could have been at 80 if, at 70, someone had handed her what I am handing you right now. Not a gym membership. Not some punishing routine. Just the truth. That the discomfort of using your body is not the thing hurting you. The discomfort of using your body is the medicine. And the comfort you are being offered, the sitting and the sparing and the letting others do it, that, given long enough, is the thing that will cost you your whole world. Eleanor's world did not have to get smaller. And I am telling you this story so that yours does not have to either. So let us make sure it does not. Stay with me, because right now, before we go one more minute, I want to ask you for something. Let me step out from behind the story for just a moment, and talk to you plainly, the two of us. If you have made it this far, if Eleanor landed somewhere in your chest, if that half second under the coffee table felt familiar, if any part of this has been the truth you have been quietly circling for a while, then I want to ask you to do one small thing before we get to the movements. Would you take 1 second and hit that subscribe button? I know. Everyone asks. But let me tell you why it actually matters here, because I would not ask you for something empty. This channel is built for people exactly like us. People over 50 who are done being talked down to, who do not want another miracle powder or another influencer half our age shouting about their abs, who just want the honest, kind, science-backed truth about how to stay strong and free in ourselves for as long as we possibly can. When you subscribe, 2 things happen. You get these videos, so this becomes not a one-time watch but a companion, a steady voice in your corner, week after week. And you tell the algorithm to carry this to another Eleanor out there, sitting in her front room, who nobody has told yet that the door can still open. That is a real thing you can do, right now, for a stranger you will never meet, in about 1 second. Subscribe. And while you are down there, I have a question for you, and I genuinely want your answer, because I read them. Here it is. Can you stand up from a chair without using your hands? Try it, right now, honestly, and then tell me in the comments. Just tell me. Yes, easily. Or, yes, but it is getting harder. Or, not anymore, and I want that back. There is no wrong answer, and there is no shame in any of them. I want to know where you really are, because it helps me make what you actually need. And I will tell you a secret. Reading that you tried, that you got up out of that chair and typed it to me, is the thing that keeps me making these. So do it. I will be reading. All right. That is my whole ask. Thank you for it, truly. Now let us get to the good part. Because I promised you this was fixable, and now I am going to show you exactly how, with nothing but your own home and a little bit of honesty. No gym. No equipment. No spandex. Let me show you the movements. Now I want to take all of this off the screen and put it into your actual life. And I need to be very clear about something, because the word exercise makes a lot of us close our eyes and sigh, and I do not blame you one bit. You do not need a gym. You do not need equipment. You do not need to change your clothes or drive anywhere or feel foolish next to a 25-year-old in headphones. Everything I am about to show you can be done in your kitchen, in your living room, in the ordinary clothes you have on right now, in the small gaps of a normal day. This is not about becoming an athlete. It is about giving your muscles a reason to stay. And the whole secret, the one big idea under all of it, is this word. Resistance. Muscle only stays when something asks it to push or hold against a real load. Walking is wonderful for your heart, and please keep walking, but walking on flat ground does not, on its own, ask enough of your muscles to keep them. You have to give them something to push against. The good news is your own body weight, a chair, a wall, and a couple of soup cans are more than enough to start. Let me give you 5, and I will keep them plain. 1. The sit to stand. You already met this as a test, now it becomes your best exercise, and honestly, if you only ever did this one, you would change your life. Sit in a firm chair. Stand up. Sit down. Slowly, under control, especially on the way down, lower yourself like you are trying not to make a sound, because that slow lowering is where the real strength is built. Do it however many times you comfortably can, rest, do it again. Use your hands at first if you need them, and make it your goal, over weeks, to need them less. This one motion trains the exact muscles that stand you up out of every chair, every toilet, every car for the rest of your life. Do a little set every time you sit down to a meal, and the day takes care of itself. 2. The counter push-up. Not on the floor, I would never. Stand an arm's length from your kitchen counter, place your hands on the edge, and lower your chest toward the counter and press yourself back. That is a push-up your wrists and shoulders can actually live with, and it keeps the strength in your chest, arms, and shoulders. The strength you use to push yourself up off the ground, out of the bathtub, up from the floor. Do a handful. The counter is not going anywhere, and neither, if we do this, are you. 3. The wall sit, or just the standing hold. Put your back against a wall and slide down just a little, an inch or two. You are not trying to sit in a chair that is not there, and hold it while you count slowly. Feel your thighs wake up and start to talk to you. That burn is not damage. That burn is your quadriceps, the big muscles on the front of your thighs, the ones that hold your knees together when you go downstairs, remembering that they have a job. Hold as long as is comfortable, stand up, shake it out, do it again. 10-20 seconds is a fine place to start. 4. The heel raise, for balance and calves and the whole business of not falling. Stand behind a sturdy chair, hands resting on the back of it for safety. Rise up onto the balls of your feet, up onto your toes, hold for a breath at the top, and lower slowly. Up and slowly down. This does two things at once, which is why I love it. It strengthens your calves and ankles, which are the muscles that catch you when you start to trip, and it quietly trains your balance every single time you do it. Balance is a muscle too, in its way, and it fades if you never challenge it. Do a slow set, holding the chair, and over time, only when you are truly steady, you can try resting just your fingertips there instead of your whole hand. 5. Carry something. This is the one nobody thinks of as exercise, and it might be the most real of all, because it is just life, done on purpose. Pick up something with a little weight to it, a gallon of water, a bag of groceries, a couple of soup cans, one in each hand, and simply walk with it. Around the kitchen, down the hall, out to the mailbox. Set it down, rest, do it again. This is called a carry, and it is the single most honest, useful strength there is, because it is exactly what real life asks of you. To pick up a thing and take it somewhere without your body failing you. A strong grip and the strength to carry are two of the things most tightly linked to living long and living free. So carry your own groceries. Carry the laundry. When you find yourself about to make 2 trips to spare your arms, make 1 trip on purpose and call it your training. That is the whole program. 5 plain movements, no gym, no floor if you are not ready for the floor, nothing but the furniture you already own. Now let me tell you how to actually do it, because the movements are the easy part and the doing is the whole game. Start absurdly small. I mean it. If you try to do an hour, you will do it once, hate it, and quit, and I will have failed you. So do not do an hour. Pick 2 of these 5. Do them 2 or 3 times this week. That is it. That is the entire assignment. A tiny bit of strength work, 2 or 3 times a week, not every day. Your muscles actually grow on the rest days, not the work days, is enough to turn this whole thing around. The 90-year-olds in that study were not living in a gym. They trained a few times a week. A few times a week is the magic, and a few times a week is something a busy, tired, real human being can actually keep doing for the rest of their life. Attach it to something you already do so you do not have to remember it. Do your sit-to-stands while the coffee brews. Do your counter push-ups while dinner is in the oven. Do your heel raises while you brush your teeth, nobody will ever know. The routine you keep beats the perfect routine you quit, every single time. I would rather you do the small thing for 10 years than the heroic thing for 10 days. And then, the part everyone forgets, and the reason so many of us eat healthy and still lose muscle. Feed the muscle. Remember, it is built from protein, and most of us over 60 are quietly starving it. So at every meal, not just dinner, put a real source of protein on the plate first, and build the rest of the meal around it. Eggs in the morning instead of just toast. A can of tuna, some cottage cheese, a handful of beans, a piece of chicken, a scoop of Greek yogurt. You are giving the body the bricks. All the exercise in the world cannot build a wall with no bricks. And if chewing meat is hard, or cooking feels like too much for one person, and I know it does, talk to your doctor about the simple ways, the yogurts and the shakes and the soft proteins, that make it easy. This is not about eating perfectly. It is about not leaving your muscles standing there with a blueprint and no materials. Do that, 2 movements, a few times a week, a little more protein on the plate, and I promise you, in a matter of weeks, not years, you will feel that chair get a little easier. And that is not vanity. That is the door to the rest of your life, staying open. Let me tell you what that door really leads to. Because this was never about muscle. I want to end by telling you what this was really about, because it was never, for 1 second, about muscle. When we hear build muscle, our whole culture hands us one picture, and it is the wrong picture for us. It is a young person in a mirror. It is vanity. It is the beach, the biceps, the photograph. And so a great many good, sensible people over 50 quietly decide that strength is not for them, that it is a young person's game, a vain young person's game, and they have grown out of it and above it. I want to take that picture and set it down, gently, and give you the true one. For us, for you and me, on this side of 50, strength has nothing to do with a mirror. Strength is freedom. That is the whole thing. That is what every rep of every silly little chair stand is actually buying you. Not bigger arms. Freedom. Let me tell you what freedom actually looks like, in the small true currency of a real life, because the big words mean nothing until you see them small. Freedom is getting up off the floor after you play with your grandchild easily, so that you are not afraid to get down there in the first place, so that you are a presence on that rug and not a spectator in the good chair. That is what the floor test was really asking. Not can you exercise. It was asking, can you still get down into the middle of your own family's life and back out again under your own power? Freedom is carrying your own groceries into your own house and setting them on your own counter and not needing to ask, not needing to wait, not needing to feel that small hot flush of dependence over a bag of groceries. It is the suitcase you carry on to the trip you take because you can still take it. It is the stairs you climb to sleep in your own bedroom in your own house, upstairs, where Eleanor could not go. Freedom is falling, because we all stumble, strong or not, and getting up. It is the difference between a scary moment and a life-ending one being decided, right there on the floor, by whether the muscle you built shows up for you when you need it most. That is not vanity. My God, that is as far from vanity as a thing can be. That is the most practical, loving, dignified thing you can do for your future self and for everyone who loves you and does not want to become your caretaker before their time. Because here is the truth underneath the whole video. The thing we are all actually afraid of, the fear under the fear, is not death. Most of us have made a kind of peace with the fact that this life ends. What we are truly afraid of is dependence. Losing our independence. Becoming a burden. Living our last years shrunk into one room, sharp mind trapped in a body that quit, having to ask for help to do the things a 2-year-old can do. That is the real fear. And I am here to tell you, after 30 years of watching how these stories actually go, that the single most powerful thing standing between you and that fear is not luck, and it is not a supplement, and it is not your doctor. It is the muscle on your own 2 legs. It is the strength in your own 2 hands. And it is almost entirely, gloriously, in your control, starting this week, at whatever age you are, from wherever these 2 tests found you today. The muscle does not know how many birthdays you have had. It only knows whether you asked something of it this week. So ask. Start absurdly small, start today, and just do not stop. Not for a photograph. Not for anyone else. For the freedom to stay yourself, whole, capable, and free, all the way to the end of the road. You are not too old. You are not too far gone. The machinery is still in there, waiting for you to switch it back on. And now you know how. So let me leave you with the question I want you to carry out of here, the one I asked before and I am asking again, because I really do want to know. Go find a firm chair. Fold your arms. And try to stand up without using your hands. Can you get up? Tell me in the comments. And then, go do it again tomorrow. I am so glad you are here. Take care of that body. It is the only one that gets to come with you the whole way. Come with me. I will see you in the next one.